Hello, lawn mowing people. Today I'm going to talk about the most important kinds of insurance that you can have for your lawn mowing business. Now, when you start your lawn mowing business, insurance is usually the last thing that you're thinking about. However, when something happens, suddenly it's at front of mind. If you do not have insurance, your business could fail overnight, and that's a fact. Now, when you start, you need insurance for your lawn mowing business for a lot of reasons. Imagine you're working out the back of a property and you come back to the vehicle and find out that a piece of equipment is gone. What are you going to do? Or even worse, imagine if you came back and your trailer was gone. Well, you may think that's unlikely, but I've actually had a trailer completely written off while I've been out working. I stopped at a set of lights and a vehicle ran up behind me and smashed into my trailer, and the trailer was a complete write off. Now, if I wasn't insured, that could have been an absolutely major incident because if you do not have insurance, you need to be able to go out and buy whatever you've just lost. And that can be really, really painful. Or for some people, you can't even do it. Now, what kind of insurance do you need when you start your business? When you think about it, insurance is really not that expensive, and having good insurance coverage will help you sleep better at night. Now, despite what people say, you don't need to insure absolutely everything. Some things it makes good sense to cover yourself. Now, when you're insuring, you insure against two things. You insure against the known and the unknown. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say your vehicle's worth about 10K and you have that in the bank, you may be able to cover it. However, if your brakes failed and you hit a vehicle that was worth 100K, chances are that you would not have that sitting in the bank. So the whole idea of insurance is to protect your business against unexpected events. And what about the small stuff? Well, I self-insure the small stuff. So sometimes you've got minor stuff and it's just not worth insuring. Like when you're talking about blowers, we have an excess of $500 and a blower's about $500, so it's just not worth claiming on a blower. So what we basically do is we just have a fund of about $1,000 to cover any small losses, and it allows us to replace small gear immediately and avoid claiming on our insurance and therefore raising the premiums. Now, this can go wrong. If you have something happen all at once and you have two or three small machines get taken, you may end up forking out money. However, we have insurance for our shed and everything that's in it. So basically, when the gear's home and when it's in the shed, it is insured. You've got to think about it and you've got to weigh the chances here. The chances of losing all of our gear on a job are just remote enough for us to be comfortable with that amount of risk. Now, what about larger machinery? Now, we always insure larger machinery. We don't leave it to chance. I mean, it's not too difficult to find $1,000 if you need it, but if you're talking about $10,000, that is a completely different thing. Now, one of the things that you really need to do is keep your insurance company in the loop. If you buy a piece of equipment and you're paying $1,000 or more for it, let the company know immediately. And that way you'll always know that you're covered. And also it's essential to have vehicle insurance, even if you're driving a complete bomb. Because as I said earlier, it's not just your vehicle you may have to replace. Now, if you're dead against insuring your vehicle because you really don't think it's worth it, then you can go out and get third-party insurance. This will at least cover you if you hit someone else. And also with the insurance company, sometimes you have things like we've got a handy free window replacement policy for our vehicles. And my wife never needs it, but I've actually lost 3 windows in the past couple of years. And those factory tinted black windows on vans can get pretty pricey. Also, do be aware that if you're using your private vehicle as your business vehicle, you need to let your insurance company know, because if you have an accident and you're carrying around a whole lot of work tools in the back of your vehicle, or you have sign writing on your vehicle and it's insured as a private vehicle, your insurance company may not cover that. It may make your policy invalid. So just be aware of that. And also with home insurance, the insurance companies will cover your equipment when it's locked up at home if they know that you store your gear there. So just be honest with them from the start. Thing about insurance companies is they'll accept everything that you tell them without question when you take out a policy. It's as easy as that. And they'll only require you to prove what you told them was true in the event of a claim, which means that if you told them something that wasn't true or didn't tell them something, then you're paying your policy. And when you go to claim, you might find out that it was useless all along. So not only do you not get paid, you've just wasted all those premiums over that period of time. So make sure that you're honest, because those questions that they ask you when you take out the policy, they're going to check when you claim on the policy. Now, another thing is public liability insurance. Now, this should really have gone first on the list because it's probably the most important and probably one of the cheapest forms of insurance available. It only costs a couple of $100 a year, and that basically insures you against having a major disaster and having to pay for something like, let's say, if a spark from your mower burnt down a garage, or something like that happened, or you were mowing a lawn and you hit a windscreen of a car as it was traveling and it ran into another car. These are the things that are covered by public liability. So it's the big stuff that you're covering yourself for, and that's the kind of stuff that can wipe you out. When I got my first business, I was actually doing a car graphics business, and I had a friend that did white walls on tyres, and neither of us had public liability insurance. And what this guy would do is he'd go out and he'd jack up cars on yards and he'd put the white walls on the tyres. And one day he was in a place called Western Springs, and the car yard was on a bit of a slope, and he had a vehicle jacked up, but he hadn't engaged the handbrake properly, and it rolled off the jack and it rolled down the yard. Unfortunately, it hit a whole lot of European cars on the way down, and by the time it got to the end of the yard, there was a real mess. And financially, it wiped him out. The next day, I rang an insurance broker. I got public liability insurance, and I've been insured ever since because I do not want that happening to me. Now, another thing is income protection and health insurance. Now, this is a good kind of insurance to have, but it can get pricey and it renews every year. And you'll find that every year the price increases. And I wish we could do that with our lawns. But the older you get, the more expensive it becomes. And normally by the time you hit 50, it's unaffordable. And I think that's by design. And sometimes you can get insurance that ties income protection with some kind of health insurance, but it does pay to watch for conditions, because some of them require you to be off work for 4 to 6 weeks before they even start paying out. And with a lot of accidents, the chances of you being in hospital for any longer than a week are fairly remote. Now, if you're looking at income protection insurance, you might be better off just having 3 months worth of income in an emergency account. What about accident insurance? Now, here in New Zealand, they cover accidents, and the government has a plan called ACC. And this is available for self-employed people, and it will cover a percentage of your income if you injure yourself and you're off work. I think it's about 80%. Now, one thing that you do need to watch out for is when you register for ACC here in New Zealand, they automatically start you off on a plan called Cover Plus. However, the plan you really want is Cover Plus Extra, because Cover Plus doesn't work that well for self-employed people. Cover Plus Extra allows you to nominate the amount of money that you want to cover yourself for, and that is a lot better for your business. And it also allows you to lower the levies that you're paying. So we find this the best option for lawn mowing businesses. So I suggest you have a look at that if you live here in New Zealand. I think at the end of the day, the best thing to do is to go out and find yourself a good broker. Don't go with the first insurance company you find. Compare all their prices, compare their offerings, go through a broker, and he'll help you do this. A good broker will be able to compare one policy with the next and tell you what the difference is between these policies. And we've used the company for around about 15 years, and we find them pretty good. So once you find a good broker, you can just stay with them. And when you receive your policy agreement, please make sure that you read it. This is a vital step that I see many people not do. They don't pay any attention. They don't read their policy until something goes wrong, and then they find out they weren't insured. There's little gems of information that you'll find if you read your insurance policy, and there'll be things like your insurance doesn't cover you if you're up a ladder over 3 meters off the ground. You need a separate kind of insurance. If you do high ladder work, then you'll need to let your insurance company know, because that won't be under a standard policy. And if you do things like spraying chemicals on lawns, your policy will not cover you if you don't hold a current chemicals license. So just make sure that you read the small print. I knew of an elderly guy that looked after a lawn at a kindergarten. He mowed the lawns, trimmed the hedges, and sprayed the lawns for weeds. But on one occasion, he accidentally mixed up his spray bottles and he ended up killing the entire lawn. He was insured, but when he went to his insurance company, they declined his claim because he didn't have a chemicals license. And he ended up losing his business and having to fork out to get a lawn replaced for a kindergarten. And this isn't just a one-off thing. Just last week, a company here in New Zealand, a golf course, actually lost their guy that maintained their lawns and were doing it themselves. And they sprayed a whole lot of greens to get rid of weeds, and they got the mix wrong and they killed some large areas on their golf course. So you've really, really got to watch out. And the cost of fixing this kind of thing can be huge. So now you know the most essential types of insurance for your lawn mowing business, and do remember that it's much better to be safe than sorry. And I'm sure that your business is much more important than an insurance premium. So business insurance is optional in New Zealand apart from the ACC, but if you want a healthy business and you want to be around for a long time, I suggest that you insure your business and just go through and make sure that everything is covered. And so until I see you again, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay insured. So get out there, mow lawns, have fun, and happy lawn mowing, people.